There's my grandfather. He's standing in the dim morning kitchen of his Florida home. He's got his thumb half an inch from the time button on the microwave, watching for the coffee maker to tick over to 8:15. As soon as it does, he'll press the button to sync up the microwave. It's important that they're the same. The lights are off in the kitchen to save on the electricity bill. The morning cicadas are droning in June unison as he squints and waits. That level of control over devices was an arcane power. For a man who grew up the definition of dirt poor, for a time his family lived in a sod house by the Big Blue River in Nebraska, this was high cotton. And high cotton was exactly how he'd describe it. Despite all the refinements that took place during his lifetime, he used a dated but charming vernacular. Icebox, billfold, horse feathers. I wonder what he'd make of our smart homes, of the targeted ads predicted by our toothbrush usage, the interjection of product into every notion, the promise of the mastery of domestic harmony. I suspect that it would make him uneasy. He called computers the beast. I don't think he meant it in a Skynet takes over the world kind of way. The beast would warp our desires, change our lives, take us further from God. Every Sunday, my phone reminds me that my screen time usage is about 2 hours and 30 minutes a day. That's probably not time that I was meditating or praying or otherwise finding some inner peace of spirit. But if we're being honest about screen time, consider the television. QVC was a common presence in my grandparents' living room. Peridot brooches, colorful oil kitchen timers, items flying off the backstage shelf with a counter in the chyron ticking down to demonstrate the scarcity. My grandfather and I watched that counter for quantized fakery. Was it just ticking down automatically, or was it being updated based on real sales? It always seemed to pick up near the end of the sale. I'm sure that there was some intern behind the camera, clicking a button as unpredictably as possible to give the impression of hot sales. We never found out. QVC aside, I envy his comparatively low level of exposure to advertisement. He spent most of his days sitting outside in the garage with a cup of coffee or strolling around the local neighborhoods. Walks were important to him. He typically traced the same circuit through 2 jigsaw-tight Levittown subdivisions at least twice a day, most often with his dog at his side. There were possible shortcuts and diversions along the way that he would take depending on the weather or the light. He was itinerant, a constant fixture on the streets. People knew him. He was always calling out to people in their driveways or garages. He never had anything much to say. Common refrains were, "Well, that's old Bill," to people who may or may not have been named Bill, or, "Hey there, laddie Lou," after which he'd let loose a wild, uncommon laugh. Maybe he was the one doing the advertising. Maybe he was broadcasting some mid-20th century joie de vivre that seemed out of place against the roar of dial-up modems and Hummer H1s. A better question is, what would the smart home make of him? When his data was parsed out and digested, would it answer his most pressing questions? Would the particulars of his routine smooth the mounds of data into tidy little forecasts? I'm sure it would end up selling him plenty of Florida Marlins ball caps and cans of Folgers. But I doubt that he'd get answers to the big questions. The questions that he'd ponder as he tirelessly spun an oxidized silver rosary on his index finger. How long do I have to live? How many great-grandchildren will I have? Will I make it to heaven? I still don't have any smart home accessories. Twice a year I find myself standing in the kitchen in the dim morning light, hovering my thumb over not only the buttons on the microwave, but those on the stove too, trying to match what I've done to the coffee maker. I live in a dumb home. To do otherwise would be horse feathers.